Disclaimer: this show is not for the faint of heart or the easily offended. The views expressed here are that of the show hosts only, and not their wives, girlfriends, husbands, boyfriends, polygamous partners, employers, music artists, businesses, or anyone other than the Cognitive Disillusions podcasters. The explicit tag is there for a good reason. Please proceed with caution.
Every one of us will have to decide whether or not we want to keep this great republic or whether we're willing to sacrifice it and surrender it to tyranny.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Cognitive Disillusions podcast, where we address the current issues of today with brash humor, skepticism, or aggression to invoke critical thinking in the masses. We take our tightly held beliefs, everyone's tightly held beliefs, mash them up with current events, politics, and religion, then throw them to the fires of skepticism. We magnify the so-called logic, then blow it all up. There is a green zone of safety for a lack of critical thinking. This is episode number 10. Your hosts today are Joel and Al. John actually is not with us today, and we're both a little concerned about him. We are your tormentors.
I'm sure he's with us, but just not with us.
Yes, he's with us in spirit. So we are recording in a different fashion today on the podcast for our listeners. We're not live broadcasting through Google Hangouts because of some concerns that occurred last week. And we're going through a different route. So hopefully this doesn't screw up the recording. I tested it several times this week, and it seemed to work just fine. I'm hoping that it stays that way. And this way you don't have to worry about us being cut out and that constant robot voice that happens with our feed. Hopefully it won't do that because my internet provider is a bit of a fucking bitch.
That would be an understatement.
Yeah, that was a fucking nightmare last week when we were trying to record this same episode. But hopefully this will resolve that issue and we can move on.
Agreed. Hear, hear.
You had an idea for the show today. Why don't you present what you would like to talk about?
So we are kind of thinking on the fly here a little bit more than we had anticipated, as we are down one co-host. Wishing him well wherever he is, John. I hope you're good, and let us know when you are. Hopefully before you ever even get a chance to listen to this. So yeah, the one thing that came to mind as something that we could do for practicality reasons is Al is pretty well versed in the area of security, in particular internet security, and I, being by all measures a layman in that regard, thought I could maybe ask questions that have been on my mind in hope that some of you listening out there might have had similar questions, and maybe you can get an opportunity to get those answers from someone that knows what the fuck they're talking about and isn't going to bullshit you and try to sell you something.
Well, let's keep in mind here that I by no means am an expert.
Well versed.
There are people with a broader depth of and there is a possibility that they know something I don't, to where the information I may give you may not be 100% accurate anymore. So let's just bear that in mind.
And with that being said, by all means, if anyone is listening to this and would like to comment in the comment section any corrections or even just things in addition to what we're talking about, by all means, feel free, and hopefully we can have a meaningful discussion.
Yeah, and also keep in mind I will be reviewing the comment section. So if there are any links or viralware or hyperlinks to your servers, I will be deleting those. So don't think you can get away with that bullshit.
Yeah, we'll get on the red phone and get a drone coming out your way.
And more reality than you may have guessed on that.
Cheers. And that's why we're doing this. All right. So one area that I know concerns us all as we use the net is the most basic protection that any of us have while using the net in commerce or any other fashion, really, is passwords. And for me, working in the medical field, passwords are the bane of my very existence, because with the level of protection required for the HIPAA laws and things of that nature, these things need to be updated frequently, kept track of. There are a multitude of websites and passwords even within those websites that I have to somehow keep track of. And I don't really have a very good way of doing that, and I certainly am as susceptible to using not only passwords that are easy to remember, but similar, if not identical passwords for multiple sites and using similar credentials. So I was wondering if you have any thoughts in that regard on tips for dealing with passwords, whether there is certain levels of complexity that you would recommend, if there's certain kinds of software out there that I've certainly kind of investigated a little bit that can help keep track of all of this information securely. Do you have any tips in that regard?
Well, there are two ways you can go about this, and there are, obviously, well, there's more than two ways, but there are two basic control ways. One is what's called a keychain, and this has been popularized on Macintosh systems. And you see it on your Firefox or your Chrome or your, God forbid, you still use Internet Explorer. You see do you want us to remember this password? That's called a keychain. What it does is it saves it to a file, and it secures it, hopefully, most of the time not. Unless you're using like Mac or Linux. Those operating systems have encrypted keychain files. So what that means is you only put it in your keychain. You don't have to put your username and credentials out there multiple times, which prevents keylogging. And what keylogging is it's a program that records every single keystroke and sends it either back to a user via encrypted tunnels, SSH, or they have it plugged into the back of your machine when you're not looking, and get it later. And that's what a keylogger does. Most companies have keyloggers on their computers and on their networks. So if you're going onto your Facebook, they have your username and password. If you're going onto your favorite porn site, they have your username and password there. So if you're getting upbilled on porn, that's probably where it's coming from, is one of the IT guys at your work.
Wow.
True story.
So I want to go on the record and say I don't look at porn at work, but I just don't have time, I guess. That's probably the only reason.
Well, it's probably a good thing, because most businesses have logging software, not just key loggers, but also screen capture logging software that records what you do online, especially in medical fields where HIPAA is a big deal, a really fucking big deal. So you don't want to be doing that kind of shit, because it not only will violate most likely your company's internet use policy, multimedia policy, It'll violate your social media policies. It'll violate your internet usage policies, your basic hardware policies. You're fucked 7 ways from Sunday if you're doing that. But setting that aside, so you've got keychains, and then you've got the downside of keychains is if somebody steals your computer, they don't have to put in the effort to figure out what your fucking passwords are. They plug it on the net, boom, they've already got your keychains. They go to Facebook and it pops open for them. So that's the downside of keychains. The other side is, username and password and having them separate, either in an encrypted file on your hard drive. So if your hard drive goes down, you're fucked. And yeah, there are multiple usernames and passwords. One of the biggest security flaws that I see when it comes to internet usage is people use the same or close to the same username and almost the identical password for all their social media, all their personal drives, their emails, their bank accounts, etc. You get one password, you unlock several others.
Yeah.
And most of the time, they use the one that they use the email on. So they go to the email, they get that up and running, and then they go down the list of your emails and they type in a search, Facebook. Bam. Now I know what your Facebook password is. Because people save that shit in their email for whatever fucking reason. Easy, simpler, lazy, whatever. So you've got that side of it. So use different usernames and different password sets. Now, I have an issue with passwords. I got a big issue with it. Because of programs like Johnny or John the Cracker or Oath Crack, which is a Windows passwords cracker. You got Pass the Hash, which is a different type of password cracking software, and different methods of cracking the software, cracking the passwords. Brute force attacks nowadays take 30 seconds to a minute to crack most passwords. That's including when you're using upper, lowercase, you're using numbers, you're using symbols. That's a problem. What I would personally recommend, and this is what I use, is what's called a passphrase. Multiple different words that spell out an idea or a concept. I have 2 children. And the combination of that is I have the number 2 children spelled out. And then some symbol mixed in there. That way it's harder for a password cracker, a dictionary attack to go through it. It just is.
Yeah.
So that would be the main one for passwords if you're asking my humble opinion.
Sure. So yeah, the advice is multiple unique usernames, multiple unique pass phrases, it sounds like.
Yeah.
Now, that's all well and good. It's certainly intuitive that would be the case. However, then we bump up against the thing I was kind of referring to before, which is how the hell do you keep track of all this stuff?
Well, this is going to surprise you. Pen and paper.
Pen and paper. What is this mythical thing you speak of?
This is the ancient form of writing shit down. Now, writing shit down for the most part is not a safe way or a secure way of keeping things. But if you keep all your usernames and passwords written down and then actually in a good solid safe at home, you're better off protecting your identity that way than having it on your hard drive or having it in an email. One of the ways, what I do as some form of side work is I help people get into their machines. At their request, I make sure they own the machine. I have them sign a fucking waiver that tells them they can't sue me and their spouse can't sue me because
for whatever you find or
yeah, because the majority of the time it's, hey, I want you to log into my laptop that my husband and I share and show me what he's doing. Now, since it's a joint account, there's no expectation of privacy. But some of them own the machines. Husbands or wives own the physical machine. They own it. Your expectation of privacy on that machine is zero, even if you have a username and password legally in this state and in Oregon and a few others. You don't have the privacy that you think you do. If your spouse owns the machine, you have no expectation of privacy in your private account, your quote-unquote private account. They can look at it. And I don't even have to physically go in your account to get at your files. The majority of the time, the spouse, say, Susie Q Public, goes, hey, I want to know what's in my husband's account. Okay, do you own the computer? Yeah. Can you log into your account? Yes. And then most people have Windows. In Windows, if you right-click Run as an administrator once you're logged in, you have full access to every file on the machine, whether it's under that account or not. And one thing I find quite a bit is people will have a file that literally says passwords or account usernames and passwords. I go down that list to the email usually, log into their email, depending on if it's a joint email or not. And I've literally seen people save in a draft all their usernames and passwords in case they lose it on their hard disk. Don't do that.
Don't do that.
Don't do that, please. Make my job harder.
Yeah.
So,
well, you wouldn't necessarily, unless someone is sort of up to no good or really is motivated by trust issues, valid or not. Aside from those things, you wouldn't be doing that if people kept track of these things as you were suggesting now, because you wouldn't have any need to, because they wouldn't have lost this information.
Right. But it's not the loss that's the concern. A lot of people will see an advertisement from their, it'll say in their address bar of their email that says, like Comcast customer service. And whatever's inside the body of that email, they just click away going, oh, Comcast is offering me a $100 rebate. Oh, there's a fault. Please use your username and login. They type in their username and login, it recycles the screen. And they go, oh, I must have done it wrong. So they type it in again, they log in. And they see that there's no rebate. Well, the problem is what they've already done is they clicked on a link they didn't know from a place they trusted, even though when you actually go to the up to the address bar and you actually look at the full address, it doesn't even go to Comcast. It goes to fucking Caracas or Istanbul or, Gao, India, and you're not even looking at that. You just see Comcast customer service, and a lot of people don't know what spoofing is. Really, really easy to spoof an email. You can send, and you're not going to look at it twice. You're going to go, ah.
So I do know what spoofing is. Let's just in case, let's unpack. Just give you my definition is you'll get an email and it'll have all of the company's logos that you're familiar with, even have all of the same types of formatting and the way they use highlighting and things of that nature. It'll look like it is from that website. They do that just using I don't know, PDF editors or something like that, whatever that might be, any of the coding language. But so it'll look official, but ultimately you're not where you think you are, and so you're just giving some malicious entity, more than likely, your login information.
Partially, yeah. That's a full spoof is what that's called. You can actually just spoof where the email comes from. So the IP address, say my IP address at home is 192.168.0.2. Spoofing an IP address changes it to whatever your IP address is. And then you can spoof the email address where it's coming from, and then you can spoof the body, faking the body to look like as you've described. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're talking about the more fundamental layer.
Yeah, there's multiple layers to it. Some email spammers don't go to the full length. Some of them will just spoof the header, the email. They won't even spoof the actual IP address or anything, not trying to hide it. Some will go to that extent. Some will actually use an old program called Telnet. Telnet is on every computer, whether they're Linux, Mac, Windows DOS. And what Telnet allows is, Telnet was the original communications between two computers. It's used via IRC, which is Internet Relay Chat, and you actually communicate directly. And all your mail exchange servers, because every time you send an email, it goes out to Yahoo or Gmail, those have mail exchange servers. And most companies, your Dynatech or your Kaiser or your Legacy, Emmanuel hospitals, they usually have their own mail exchange servers. Those, sometimes you got to crack into to get access to them. Sometimes you can just use what's called Telnet port 25 and connect right up to them. If you Telnet and connect right up to them using your terminal, or it's called command line, your CMD on Windows machines, you Telnet in, you can type up the email right in the command line and send it as though it's coming from that actual server. So that's another way that they do it.
So from what I know, and one pretty foolproof way, I imagine, for the most part, that you can mitigate that risk is if you do see a deal for $100 off a Comcast upgrade, instead of following any link from your email, go to the address bar, go to your address bar and type in and just log into Comcast as if you were going to go pay your bill and see what you can find. And if you can't find that deal and it does look like it's legit, then give Comcast a call and say, look, this is what I got in my email, but I wanted to make sure it was legit. Something along those lines, just to be safe.
Yeah, that'd be actually excellent advice. Without bashing on Comcast, I can almost assuredly tell you that Comcast is not going to send you that.
Yeah.
So if your internet provider is Comcast, don't expect those. If you get one, that's badass, and congratulate them for them going above and beyond, but I'm skeptical.
So with Comcast, you'll get a great deal on TV and 300 landlines in your house.
Yeah, because that's real.
I hate that, the bundling thing. It's just, and then the price difference when you really just don't want a phone or you don't want TV or whatever. It's just, it's frustrating. But anyways, that's a topic for a different day. Well, probably not. I don't want to fucking talk about that. Everybody knows that's annoying. So yeah, I still feel a little bit bummed out, I guess, that there isn't maybe a more techie way to deal with techie yet easy to deal with keeping track of username passwords for particular websites. I've certainly seen programs that are out there, but who knows? I mean,
most flash drives or thumb drives, USB sticks, depending on what term you want to use. Most of them have what's called an encrypted backset. When you plug it in, it says, do you want to use Secure Shell 2 or whatever they want to call it? And it's an encryption program on that flash drive. As long as you can remember the username and password for that one device, you could essentially save your text document. And I recommend text document, plain text, not a Word document, not docs, because plain text your little
And
notepad.
that's a .txt.
Yeah, the .txt, or your notepad or your leaf pad on Macintosh, and on Linux, I think it's also called Leaf or Leaf Paper. It's a .txt. It's plain text. Any computer anywhere can read that TXT. So you plug in your flash drive, you set up a secure, say it's a 8 gig flash drive, set aside 2 gigs just for encrypted data. And use that encryption, so as long as you remember that username and password, you can get into that section of that flash drive. You can then...
Yeah, that's a fantastic idea. Then you could just write down that username and password and keep it in a secure location in case you do happen to forget it. And then, update it every once in a while. That's information I can use.
And that's one way to do it, and you save it on that text document, so in case for some reason your lovely Linux box dies for whatever fucking reason, you could plug it into your kid's fucking Windows machine and go, oh, these are what my username and passwords are.
That's awesome. And what also comes to mind is if you're not into, doing lots of typing or, I don't know, just things like that, you can, within that text document, literally just paste in the URL for the login screen for that thing, and then you can plug in that thumb drive, copy that URL, paste it in your address bar, and then it pops you right there, and then you just grab the username and password and throw it on in there. So you can just carry this thing around with you on your keychain or some method like that, and whatever box you're going on, you can just plug it in and grab that information and go. Now, it doesn't address keylogger stuff as well. I guess it would if you're copy and pasting.
It would on copy and paste, with the downside of now you have to look at what's called a man-in-the-middle attack. And a man-in-the-middle attack is where your computer connects to a router, which then connects to the internet, other routers along the way to the computer you want to talk to. So we're just going to talk with one router and 2 computers, okay? We'll break it down real simple. So computer A wants to talk to computer B. It goes through router, okay? A man-in-the-middle attack, in between either computer A in the router or computer B in the router, another computer pretends to be the router. So computer A connects to malicious computer to router, and then router goes straight to computer B. Okay?
Yeah.
So anything transmitted between the router and computer A, this other computer has now logged itself in between, strips all your headers, gets all the information passing between the two. So anytime you try to copy and paste, it's going to show that person copy and paste. This is what was copied and pasted. HTTPS in your address bar. So if you go up and you see your address bar on the web and you see http://www.cnn.com, whatever. That's an unsecured socket layer. HTTPS is what your Facebook communicates on port 8080 or 440, 445, depending on which port it's going to use. That's supposed to secure the communications from your computer through your router to that server, to that computer. It's supposed to. With a man-in-the-middle attack, depending on the software you're using, you can strip the HTTPS and still get completely unsecured data. So the likelihood of somebody man-in-the-middling your computer is probably slim and none. The places where it's most likely going to happen are at your coffee shops, your diners that have access to Wi-Fi. It's going to happen at all your medical clinics, any hospital that has Wi-Fi guest accounts. You're either being man-in-the-middle attacked by somebody else or by that company, regardless. So if you're checking your bank accounts, the username and passwords are going to be logged, unless you're using a keychain. So anytime you copy and paste that's going to be viewed. Anytime it's typed up, that's most likely going to be used. There are very advanced technologies that allow you to bypass that, protect yourself, but the average Joe, average Jane citizen isn't going to have access to that.
Would you, is there, so the way that we talked about as far as having the encrypted thumb drive, is there a better practical way than what I suggested with copying and pasting things in? Is it better to key it up? I mean, you're still subject to that same issue, I would imagine, if you type it in rather than copy pasting it.
Technically, either way, you're still vulnerable.
Yeah. I guess one of the things too is it's then saved to the clipboard on that computer that you're on as well.
There is a way to do it, and this still has vulnerabilities, so don't take this as a cure-all. You can download from like portableapps.com your own web browser, your own version of Chrome, which is portable, which you can put on that thumb drive inside that encrypted area. So you have your own web browser in that thumb drive. So when you plug that thumb drive into a computer and you type in the username and password for that encrypted thumb drive to open up, you then click on the browser. The browser then runs off your flash drive. And if your browser, your keychain, then it will log into your websites without giving that information over to anybody. So that is that's a way around it.
And that's also a really good way. I mean, one of the things that I struggle with is most of the time the things that I do at work are very separate from the things that I do at home. But on occasion, maybe I'll be sick from work and need to log in to do some certain thing. Certainly within the context of HIPAA, I wouldn't do anything that would violate that. But maybe even the more apt scenario would be if I'm at work and I wanted to do something during my lunch break, and normally I have all of that particular information, wherever that might be, on my home PC. Then I could just basically carry that stuff around with me and really have it saved to a thumb drive. And of course, probably backed up on another thumb drive would be good, secured with a safe or something along those lines.
Well, I always believe in external off-site backups. Buy a 1 terabyte hard drive for $100, back up all your shit, and then if you have a friend or a safety deposit box is best. Put it in there, and then every 2 weeks, a month, go get it, bring it home, do a fresh backup, put it back in, lock that bitch away.
Cool.
That's what I'd recommend. But yeah. I used to use a thumb drive that had my own browsers, 2 separate. I had Firefox and Chrome, portable. I had encrypted keychains and encrypted data sets on those in the encrypted portion, so that when I plugged in, I could directly communicate and use the browser through their network secure. But that's a little bit more advanced because it takes tweaking of the programming, things like that, to make sure that they run well and protected. And a lot of businesses now, especially at hospitals, medical clinics, are blocking the use of the USB ports now. So that's becoming a little bit more difficult for some people.
Sure. Well, I wonder if we can maybe switch gears a little bit, unless, of course, you have anything more to add. But another thing I was hoping maybe to hit on briefly, because I don't think it will take nearly as much time, is paying for things online, and the it's all on a continuum of safety. Of course, there's the continuum is you really can never be 100% secure when you're online. That's just not that's just not feasible. But there certainly is that continuum. And so, we've got just straight up credit card purchases. We've got PayPal. We've got Bitcoin. We've got all of these different methods to pay. What are the more secure ways to go about doing that, in your opinion?
None of them.
None of them.
Next question. No.
PayPal. Can I tell you an idea that I had?
Shoot.
Here's an idea that I had. I had an idea of getting one of those, one or maybe several of those prepay debit cards, and only loading certain amounts on it that I know I'm going to use immediately, and just really floating money that way, so that no one would ever have direct access to all of my funds at any given time. Is that one way to potentially get around some of this?
Yeah, that's a reasonably safe venture for small purchases.
Sure.
I would definitely say if you're traveling abroad, not traveling on abroad, but traveling overseas anywhere.
Or not necessarily in abroad.
Well, even in the U.S. I would...
Never mind. I think
I caught it. I caught it.
Okay, you just powered through. Just go right through that distraction.
And keep going, but I failed.
Oh, we got to get to the big finish here. So
that's what she said.
She did.
That's what I hear.
I didn't know they did that.
Jesus Christ! And we're off track.
Yeah.
Oh shit! That was
got to do it once. Got to get a couple of those in, man. Can't just go through and be all professional, man. Got to get that humor in, or whatever it is.
So, purchasing small gift cards, Visa gift cards or MasterCards, depending on what your preference is. I don't endorse either company. In fact, I fucking dislike both of them, but that's for a purely personal reason. Purchasing them at a bank.
Did they not let you get on that porn site? I hate when they do that. Moving forward.
I'm going to insert crickets later on that bit.
Okay. It needs it.
So, purchasing the small gift cards, taking those when you travel, notifying your bank. Hey, I'm going to be traveling to South Korea between this date and this date. I'm using mostly gift cards. I might use my debit card once or twice, but I doubt it.
That way, it would be like as an emergency backup or something like that, you could say.
Notifying your bank so that they don't flag it and prevent you from the purchase at a hospital because you're fucking bleeding out. That kind of thing.
That would suck. I'm sorry, your debit card is being rejected. You must die.
So true story. Buddy of mine over in fucking Britain gets fucking stabbed in the subway. Fucking stabbed. And because he didn't notify his bank, they weren't going to process his purchase at a fucking hospital. So the hospital was hesitant to actually do the shit. At Britain, who has a socialized, for the most part, healthcare system, was giving him shit. Now, that's his version of the story. I haven't been able to call the fucking British hospital and go, did this actually happen? He's a relatively trustworthy individual, so I just kind of go, okay, you told me you had peanut butter and jelly today, I'll believe you, kind of thing.
Hey, just real quick here, I just want to go on the record and say the accent that I was attempting earlier was not depicting any particular group of people, and please don't be offended and assassinate me in the comment section for my awful attempt at an ambiguous accent.
I didn't even pick up. You were trying to do an accent?
Okay, maybe that's for the best.
Wow.
You'll hear it in playback.
I'll keep an eye on that, but you need to shut the fuck up, Khalid.
Okay. You just hit
Yes.
me with it. Oh, you hit me with it. Oh God, I thought I was gonna hit you, but I forgot all about it. I yield. I have nothing left to give after that.
Oh,
Al wins, regardless of his racism.
oh, fuck you. So, anyway, back on topic. So, yeah, if you purchase small gift cards for small purchases, I do it all the time for like iTunes and Google Play. I'll purchase a gift card with cash so that I can use the gift card, or a Visa gift card if I want to purchase something online. I tend to do that. Those are safe ways of doing it.
Can I ask a quick questions? Now, I've never done this, so certainly I could probably find this information out for myself. But I guess I'm imagining having a one that's reloadable, that you could go to Fred Meyer and just give them, $300 in cash and say, "Can you put that on this card?" I don't know if that's okay. So that is something that you could do.
Yeah, you can Google Visa prepaid cards or MasterCard prepaid cards, and it'll give you the list of banks in your area that sell them. And banks and the credit unions in Vantucky over here, $5 a pop, but you pay $30 for them. So you're paying $5 for the activation of the card and $25 on the card. And yeah, when that runs out, you just go back to the bank and you go here. You just go back to the same bank and you go, hey, here's the card number, 5 on it, 300, 275. The bare minimum is 25.
I guess I'm imagining not having to go to the bank, but really go to like a merchant. Is that something that's available? Do you know? Like I say, like a Fred Meyer or 7-Eleven or.
I've seen them in Fred Meyer. I've seen them in Safeways. I've seen them in Kroger, which is Fred Meyer, only not in the Northwest.
Yeah.
I've seen them at Dillard's, which is a primarily southeastern kind of Fred Meyer.
Like Phyllis Dillard's or something like that?
Funny. Fucking guy. Jesus.
Off the rails, sorry.
Well done. Well done, sir. So yeah, you can get them pretty much anywhere. The reason why I go to a bank is because you know for a fact those are legitimate. The banks purchase them directly from the service provider. And Fred Meyer's and places like that, sometimes they do. Sometimes they purchase them third party. And those third party ones are the ones you got to worry about.
Sure.
So you could purchase it at Fred Meyer and say, hey, I want 25 on this card. And it could be a third party, and that third party pockets it and then shuts down operations in a week. And you still have no fucking money on your card. I mean, you can go to Visa and you can order third party 1,000 blank cards. And you have all the usernames and passwords, all the PIN numbers for those cards, and you assign them out, sell them out, and people pay you for the cards, and you don't even have to load them.
So I'm imagining, and I just think this would be such a good idea if it's not already out there, that there would be like some kind of kiosk at your local Fred Meyer. So you would go to your bank, credit union preferably. I would suggest credit unions myself. And you get this card for, say, $10. Say you don't even put any money on it, but you can go to a kiosk at Fred Meyer's with this particular card and put $20 bills into this machine, slide your card, and load that money right onto it. That seems like that would be a cool thing. I don't think that exists, but
you can do it from your phone or from the internet, which is unsafe over the internet. You can actually call Visa with the Visa prepaid cards and say, hey, I'm going to give you my credit card number. I want you to load this amount onto this card from my bank card, my debit card. And they'll do that. So you don't even have to go into the bank. But the problem with that is now you're tying your debit card to that Visa prepaid card.
In some fashion, yeah.
So if you give that as a gift to somebody later and they want the research history, they can subpoena the research history. They can do, they can crack it, username and password. Now they've got your debit card and your security code on the back. You don't want to do that. That's why I say go into a bank, give them the money, have them put it on the card. That way you're physically giving them cash, you're physically getting credit.
Yeah. Well, what are your thoughts about just making this maybe even simpler for, again, average Joe or Jane or, whatever else in between? So a lot of people will feel like the choices are either using your debit credit card or using PayPal. So do you have any thoughts about the comparison between the two?
Well, PayPal gives you a buffer, for the most part, between your bank account card and a actual purchase action, or one more layer of vulnerability, depending on how you look at it. For the average Joe user, average Jane user, or whatever person you've stuck in between for a devil's threesome, it creates a barrier of safety for some people. Part of the problem is back in 2010 or 2011, LulzSec, a subsect loosely tied to Anonymous, who claimed affiliation to Anonymous, cracked PayPal and had downloaded their usernames, passwords, and tied bank accounts all onto a file that they shared with everybody. They sold to the highest bidder. Or at least that's the claim that the news put out and some of the members of LulzSec put out, or people that claim they were members of LulzSec. It was verified by PayPal that they had been hacked and that had been stolen, so that lends some credence to it. I'm hesitant. I don't use PayPal.
What about Bitcoin?
Bitcoin I do use from time to time, but I put money on a prepaid card from a bank, and I use that to purchase my Bitcoin when I do it. But that's just because I don't want any ties to me physically purchasing it, because I can easily claim if for some reason my Bitcoin purchased illegal stuff, hypothetically, I could easily say I lost that prepaid card. I don't know where it's at.
You shady motherfucker.
I never said I was shady. I gave a hypothetical. That's all I
did. Oh, I'm sorry. Now I feel bad.
No, I'm definitely shady as fuck. But I'm shady in a good way.
You heard it, folks. Al is shady as fuck and definitely not a racist.
Shut the fuck up, Khalid. So there's, in the terms of, if you're going to consider black versus white construct,
binary.
Yeah, a very binary viewpoint. There's what's called white hat hackers. Those are computer programmers, software engineers that work for companies in order to protect that company or that group of assets. They're the quote-unquote good guys. The quote-unquote NSA, CIA, DIA, those guys are a lot of white hats, supposedly. Then you've got the quote-unquote bad guys that only do malicious shit. They write code, they hack, they crack into networks only for malicious purposes. that's a black hat hacker. Okay. The majority of people are what's called a gray hat. They do malicious shit to fix a problem for themselves or for friends, or they, write malicious shit to find out what it does so that they can do it either later to fuck with somebody as a joke, or to actually do the work to go, all right, this is how somebody's going to penetrate my system, penetrate me. Those are gray hats. I fall into the gray hat category.
When was the last time you were penetrated?
I've never been penetrated.
So you're a virgin hat.
I've never been penetrated physically. I'm not saying I've never been penetrated via the web.
Except by a good cheesesteak.
Oh, fuck yeah. Cheesesteaks? Philly cheesesteak?
Hell yeah.
Oh, give me a good Philly cheesesteak and I'll show you a good time. The majority of people fall in the gray category, just like when it comes to personalities. Most people are gray. They're not purposefully bad or malicious. They're not purposefully good. They just kind of go about their day. And I fall into that category. I learn programming skills to help protect me and my family and friends. And to learn to protect yourself, you got to learn how you can be attacked. And that's where I fall into. I learn the attack methods, attack vectors, methodology, things like that, so that I don't get screwed over in the end.
Well, I mean, takes all kinds. I know a lot of the, not a lot, okay, a certain percentage that's unknown to me, hackers, they just do it because it's a challenge, just like any of us would do certain things to, challenge ourselves. What can we possibly, what can we do here in this situation? What are we capable of? So that's neither here nor there, but something I considered.
Yeah, for most people, it's a challenge. I have an interest in it. I want to know about it. I want to learn from it. It's a puzzle. And there are some people that take that puzzle and go, how can I use this to help people? And there are some people that use that puzzle and go, how can I use this to hurt people? Some people end up going, well, I want to learn how to help people, and then end up getting paid a lot of money to not do that and choose to take that route. So, it's just like with everything else, every other endeavor. You can use your medical knowledge to save lives or take them. So, just depends on how you want to use it. But in the philosophy of military, you got sheep, you got wolves, and you got the sheepdog. I know it's a corny analogy, but the sheepdog looks like a wolf, has teeth and claws like a wolf, and scares the shit out of the sheep. But they're not a bad guy.
Well, bad, good, it's all depending on where you're starting from. Well, no. Hold on. I want to retract that statement. I definitely do not buy into the concept of relativism, moral relativism, so I'm going to retract that.
I do in some aspects
Sure.
of it.
Yeah. Multiple peaks on the moral landscape, for sure, certain, but I think there's definitely some claims that we can make that are pretty universal about, well,
for the most part, you're right. But
Sam Harris, this thing again.
For the most part, you're right, but I would disagree on some things. If my family is in need, I'm going to use every avenue and every resource I have to provide for them and help them. That goes with my friends. And
but
if
only,
that means hurting other people, I'm going to.
Yeah, but only insofar as you would deem necessary, though. There's certainly you wouldn't go full nuclear option on someone for a return that is that doesn't add up. You're able to morally weigh these things out. And I realize we've totally gone off on a whole other tangent. So, but it all kind of ties in.
For me, it depends. I know you, on the other hand, are very reserved when it comes to certain things. On some things, I do think the nuclear option on some people is necessary to get a point across. The nuclear deterrent idea,
But the point is you wouldn't do that without thought. You would not look at it in a binary way. You would weigh all of the facts and do what is in your judgment best. And that's great. I mean, that's fine. That's where we live. We don't live in a binary world so much. So, but yeah, I mean, I think we can make certain judgments about certain behaviors and certain acts as being right and wrong, binary. I think we get lost in the ocean of relativism, and then we don't know what's right and wrong at all. And I think that's a mistake.
So, when it comes to not only the moral, ethical guidelines, but also what our topic for the night of what can we do to protect ourselves, DEFCON, DEFCON,
yep,
and Black Hat Conference, both have videos on YouTube, and those are two of the main quote-unquote hacker, cracker, white, black, gray hats get together and make presentations. Watch those videos. They're on YouTube. They have, I think, every single season is on YouTube now. And granted, some of it is tedious as fuck, I'm sure, to listen to. Some of those guys, brilliant fucking guys. Love them to death. But some of their talks are just dry as shit. And some of them
are as tedious as a book written about history books?
Yes. Sometimes worse. Honestly, even for somebody like me, sometimes fucking worse. And one of the most...
Just want to say I miss John. Just going to put that out there. Miss you, John.
Miss you too, John. Hopefully you're doing okay and we'll get you back next week. But I don't think so. I think next week is a military schedule. I'm not really sure. So I don't know if he'll be available.
I'll try to get a guest.
Okay. But yeah, some of them are tedious as fuck to listen to. Some of them, I mean, granted, I'm a stupid American. I only understand like 4 languages. So,
come on.
Well, even some of those, even some of the subsects of those languages, I don't understand all the dialect or some of the nuances. I can piece most of it together. But even some of them just go way beyond my fucking capacity. And at that point, I just tune out and stare off into space and chase fucking tires. But, yeah.
Well, if it's not on a dinner menu and it's a different language, then I probably don't understand it.
Isn't it sad when your exposure to other languages is, I figured out that pollo means chicken.
And it's not polo, because that's horses and sticks. Or something like that.
Oh, fuck.
I don't know how they get the horses in the water for water polo, but...
That's fucking funny as shit. Love it.
Oldie but a goodie.
Oh. You know what they say about older broads, right? They don't swell and they're grateful as hell.
They don't what? Swell?
They don't swell and they're grateful as hell.
They don't swell.
They don't get pregnant.
Oh, okay.
There you go. It's okay. It's okay.
Yeah. Well, we need to wrap this up, I think.
Yeah, I think we're getting close to an hour. Actually, we're over an hour now. I don't know about actual episode time, but...
Well, I want to just kind of in closing say it's never too late to, and really never too soon to start taking your security more seriously. One day, shit's going to hit the fan if you don't, and you don't want to get caught with your pants down. I mean, you don't want to pull a peewee, okay? So take some time, think about what you're doing, see, you could probably figure out better ways to do things just on your own without people like Al, who has certainly given me stuff that I didn't know, but even just be intuitive about what you're doing instead of, autopiloting, because let's face it, these companies that you're dealing with online, they don't fucking care about you, okay? They don't. I mean, if a huge hack hits their system, yeah, they're going to take that seriously, but on an individual basis, they really don't care about you. You've got to look out for yourself out there. It's so much worse because of the anonymity online than it is even in regular life. So take it seriously, because we're all, statistically, we are all living paycheck to paycheck, and you can't afford to not have access to your money for even a few days, more than likely. So take some time, think about what you're doing, be mindful, and don't live in fear, but live in knowledge.
Yeah, take some time to actually go and take a computer course, or even take online courses. I mean, shit, MIT has free computer courses. There's if you're willing to pay for it, there's a group called, oh man, I'm drawing a blank right now.
Well, if they are willing to pay for it, just put your credit card number in the comments section, and we'll make sure it gets your
security code, your full username.
Yeah, and we'll make sure it gets to those companies, and we'll make sure everything works out, and you'll get an email that says that you're signed up for a class that's going to take you to the promised land. So just like I say, your full 16-digit credit card number, debit card number, the 3-digit number on the back. If you just throw those in there with your name, if it's not already just what you're using on YouTube, then we'll make sure that happens for you.
Yeah, definitely. Your credit card number, your name, the expiration date, the 3-digit security code, your address,
hashtag,
your telephone number,
if you don't know I'm kidding, you're kind of stupid.
Your birthday, that would be appreciated. That will help me do my job quite a bit.
Daddy needs a new guitar.